What do employees and employers actually owe each other now?
Not on paper, in real life. There was a time when the answer was simple. You give loyalty, you get security. Everyone understood the deal. That deal is gone. Today, employees want flexibility, meaning, and well being. Employers want ownership, accountability, and adaptability. And somewhere between those two sets of expectations, the very meaning of work is being renegotiated. Not because people care less, because both sides finally know what they want. So, what does that leave us with? That is exactly what this panel at India HR Conclave 2026 is trying to find out. Let's dive in.
There is a shift. Employees don't want work-life balance, they insist for work-life dignity.
It's a two-way, it's a give and take. You can't throw money, paycheck and expect loyalty.
I am encouraged by all this Gen Z movement. They are actually taking power back in their hand.
People leave managers, not the companies.
It is an uncomfortable truth.
If somebody comes to your organization, gives 2 to 3 years, they have done their job. Let us come out of that mindset that they are married to the organization.
86% of Indian employees report struggling with mental health.
If EAP is the cornerstone of your mental health program, it's already too late.
That sense of mission and sense of achievement is what private sector needs.
So this panel is going to dig into that question, what do employees and employers actually owe each other? Moderating the conversation is Pooja Vanjani from Abakkus, who brings a sharp, no-nonsense lens to people and culture. Joining her on the panel, Suvarna Mishra, CHRO at Pluxee India, Dr. Sunita Mukherjee, a former IAS officer and UNFPA representative, Musarat Hussain, Head of Human Resources at Suzuki R&D Center, India. And we finally also have Ashwin Nayak, founder and chairperson of Mana Wellness, who is building solutions for workplace mental health, which is very much at the heart of what employees are asking for today. Over to you, Pooja.
So starting with the opening of this session on what employees and employers owe each other. Not legally, not contractually, but humanely. And that's where we are here for a panel discussion. So my first question is to Suvarna. Suvarna, Pluxee's research shows a trend called measured engagement, where employees are adopting a more calculative approach to how much they bring themselves to work. Is this a healthy correction or a warning sign? And how should employers respond to this? Over to you.
To answer your question first up, I think it's a bit of both warning as well as a healthy correction that is happening as employees recalibrate how much do they want to give in to the organization with respect to what the organization is giving to them. In terms of the revised expectations that it is, you already mentioned earlier, tenure was appreciated, today it's flexibility, and likewise so many other expectations that employees have, which earlier didn't exist because it was pretty much the employer deciding what to expect in terms of a good rewarding career from an organization's perspective. So yes, it is an uncomfortable truth that leaders have to sit with in the room. However, I believe employees today want to contribute meaningfully at work. At the same time, they also want to value their own well-being, their identity and personal priorities. And the earlier mode of always on that used to exist at workplaces can no longer be taken for granted. So it's a bit of both. The new psychological contract that an employee signs for with an employer is based on reciprocity and not just one way that it existed earlier. Employees don't want work-life balance anymore. They insist for work-life dignity. And with that, I'll come back to the research that you quoted. This was a research done across 10,000 employees across 10 countries in which Pluxee operates globally. And it excluded Pluxee employees categorically because we would have spoken some of those very vehemently in our study. So we wanted an unbiased response from the workforce to arrive at a trend. So as per the study, measured engagement refers to employees saying I do what my boss says, but I can put it to a limit if it goes too far, which is very interesting as this group represents about 35% globally, 15% of which were from India. So it tells that an Indian employee is still comparatively more willing to go above and beyond the ask at the work. At the same time, as per the study, 83% of employees still say that they like and love their organization. However, employees rate their well being at work also at 80%. So they don't want to compromise on one aspect of their love with the other, and they want it all together. So that is what I wanted to share on that question of yours.
Sure. So, what do you think can employers do to get more out of employees and so that they put in their discretionary effort from your research?
Discretionary effort is something that the employee brings, and it is at the discretion of the employee. Employers can't ask for it, they can hope for it, provided they are giving in what is expected by the new age workforce. Like we were discussing, the new workforce expects flexibility at work, it expects purpose, it expects inclusion, it expects an empathetic leadership, it expects a culture that is not just spoken at the town hall on a Friday evening, but actually lives in employee experience on a Monday morning, and also in tough times on a Tuesday afternoon when there are big decisions being taken on a Zoom call. We all know what happened at better.com few years back for 900 employees who got onto a unlucky Zoom call. So you can't expect discretionary effort if you are not respecting the employees and their new needs that it has evolved as we were discussing. It's no longer a contract just for compensation.
So, it's all about the environment and the experience the employer share with the employees.
It's about how you're bringing employee experience in the everyday lives of employees and being aligned to the values and purpose that they believe fits with the organization.
Sure, sure. I really loved the way you put it, work-life dignity. That was a re-articulation, so thanks. So my next question is to Sunita ma'am. You have served as the first woman deputy commissioner in Himachal Pradesh and led UNFPA operations across countries. From decades in public service, what do you think the private sector still doesn't understand about what people actually need from the institutions they work for?
I think the one thing that strongly drives public sector and the employees, in spite of low compensations, now they are not so low, but in spite of low compensations compared to private sector, is a sense of mission, is a sense of achievement. Even the smallest employee, may it be a peon or a clerk, feels involved. I'm not discounting that some of them are corrupt and not redeemable, but most of them are driven by a sense of mission. Okay, I'll give you an example from when I was deputy commissioner. Since you mentioned deputy commissioner, a new program was started, Antodaya. You may have heard about it, which means that the last person in the village, the poorest person in the village, should be reached and helped. They introduced 5 schemes in which we could help them: 50% grant, 50% subsidy. There were things like you could give them a cow, you could give them goats, you could give a sewing machine, you could give pension to somebody who couldn't do anything, things like that. Now, we were told to cover 20% of our people. The whole year, we would cover 100%. Every quarter, we would cover 20% plus. Now, I sat with my staff. I was the first woman deputy commissioner, and I had so much of problem being accepted. Within 4 days, I had asked the chief minister that should I go back? I haven't brought my daughter and my baggage. So he laughed. He said, don't worry. So that is the kind of atmosphere we were working in. I sat with my staff, and every 3 months we would be covering 20% or 25%. So we discussed and we reached a consensus, let's cover 100%. I wrote to government and I didn't receive a response, but on phone they said, okay, go ahead, when I called. So we had money for 100%. So we identified, all of us literally lived in the field for the next 2 months. because the choice of people was left to the panchayats. Now, panchayats will get up someone political, maybe not the poorest, but we were there as observers to guide them. Now, we had to guide, persuade, almost force someone sometimes to say, you cannot select him. He is rich. He's got 8 acres of land. He's got 2 cows. How can you select him? That person has no land. He has no cows. He's starving. And an inquiry was instituted saying that we had selected wrong people. Why had we done 100% and all? When the chief minister came, the inquiry was over. He said that we had posted a woman to this district and we thought she would do a great job. But she hasn't. And all of you staff, all of us who were sitting with the people, have joined her. And he said, you guys have not done your job. You have done a prayer. तुमने तो यहाँ पूजा की है. You have done such a great job. I've had an inquiry done and I'm very pleased with your work. So how did those people feel? Right from Patwari to Lambardar to the clerks who were working. My God, they stood up, tapped, cried, laughed, everything together. This sense of purpose and achievement is often missing in the private sector because we are looking at KPIs, we are looking at quarterly reports, we are looking at achievements. There is no action, or even if there is, individual doesn't feel so much the ownership of that praise and that action. So sense of mission is what is lacking to some extent. I mean, one cannot generalize because there must be exceptions. But that sense of mission and sense of achievement is what private sector needs. Of course, public sector can also learn a lot from the private sector.
Sure. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such inspiring examples from your personal experience. My next question is to Musarrat. R&D environments need psychological safety for innovation to happen. People need to feel safe taking risk, challenging ideas, and even failing. How do you create that culture while still holding people accountable for the outcome?
Yeah, you are right, because in the environment that we are working, it's very challenging. The kind of talent that we have, how to hold on to them, how to engage them, how to ensure that they are not only productive, we have to actually create an environment. You have to create a kind of a glue which binds the people together, and that is the culture that you have to create. How much flexibility, how much empowerment you are giving them, how much you are spending on their capability building. So the moment people join, we send them to Japan. They spend 2-3 months there, learn the culture, understand with whom they are going to work. That is the game changer number one. And apart from that, what we have is the kind of empowerment that we give to the team so that they can perform to their best. And we focus more on training the managers, the leaders, because my experience and the global experience is also that people leave managers, not the companies. And I mean, this particular GCC is not very old, maybe just 2.5 year old. But I am happy to say that I have till date had zero attrition. So far, so good.
That's great.
Which is good for a company like us. Whereas I come from Maruti, which is again a public sector and then became a joint venture, now a Japanese multinational. There the attrition is also less than 2% because of what ma'am was telling, the sense of purpose. So those things carried on from the time the company was set up. We had illustrious people like Mr. Bhargav, who is a legend in automotive industry. So the kind of culture that came into the organization that still persists. But for R&D, we are doing something very, very different in the sense that the kind of psychological safety, the kind of, I mean, we take care of them. We ensure that you give your best, we take care of everything. And be, as ma'am was saying, you have to have the sense of purpose. That is something which is very important, because until unless we are able to create that, it is just give and take. It's a master servant relationship. We have to break that and come out of that, and we work as a team. And it's a family basically. You have to create that family bonding.
Yeah. Thank you so much, for sharing what really works at Maruti. So I have a next question for you, Ashwin. 86% of Indian employees report struggling with mental health. Yet only 1 in 10 has access to professional support at work. Is the current EAP model fundamentally broken? And what should replace it?
So before we speak about EAP, maybe I can make a quick comment on the changing nature of work. My belief is fundamentally humans are not designed to work. Okay, and it's a new phenomena that has come around, and we should go back to history and see. If you look at evolution, let's say 10, 20,000 years ago, when people actually settled down and got into agriculture, that is when we got into some kind of formal work, right? And there were three reasons people would work together. One is security. You needed to have something to eat or protect your family. The second was you are part of a tribe, so you wanted a sense of belonging, right? And the third was you needed a we can call it purpose, we can call it meaning, we could call it. Those were the three fundamental factors where we came together. The modern corporation is only 200, 300 years old. And the way we work today is less than 100 years old. And I think the biggest problem with today's work is we've introduced these layers. Everything was going fine till we invented this word called supervisor, right? And this person is supervising others. It created a lot of hierarchical issues, tension, etc. So if you think about it from an evolution point of view, we are not designed to get up in the morning, dress like this, go to a place, work for somebody and all of that, right? So that's a huge psychological shift. And I am encouraged by all this Gen Z movement, which will bring it back. And they are actually taking power back in their hands. The employees are now sort of rewriting the rules, right, of what it means to be employed.
If there are Gen Zs, they would be happy to hear this.
No, we don't have to be happy. I mean, we have to really recognize that all of these things are made up things. And in the context of EAP, if you look at EAP or more broadly well-being or mental health or whatever you call it, imagine that you have built a new highway and you're very happy, you inaugurate it and people applaud you, and then accidents happen on the highway, right? The first response is that we need to take care of these accident victims. Let's put some ambulances. So that is the way today EAP is structured. We are not fixing what is wrong on the highway, we are putting more and more ambulances. And every 2 years, the CEO or the management will call the HR person and say, accident kam kyun nahi ho raha hai? Hey, ambulance change karo. Naya ambulance leke aao. New technology. So that's where we are. I don't think we are thinking about what kind of challenges, like sir mentioned, culture, policy, practices, all of that are in the place. And we are relying on this tool called EAP, I think, which is really not the way to go. And our belief, working with over 100 companies, is if EAP is the cornerstone of your mental health program, it's already too late. The real value comes when you build a culture where people look out for each other. And we believe in three things. One is mental health is confused as a medical issue. It should be seen as a social issue. Second, if it is seen as a social issue, we should build the community ownership rather than rely on experts like us, right? And for the community to participate, you have to recognize the champions in the community. So this is sort of the view we have on the EAP side.
Do you think the stigma really impacts at the workplace?
Yeah, stigma, of course, impacts at the workplace, at our families, in the society, etc. But let me tell you, I don't think just eliminating stigma eliminates the problem. For example, let's look at the country with the highest acceptance of mental health issues, which is the United States. They have the highest acceptance, stigma is less. They have the highest number of psychiatrists, they have the highest number of psychologists. They are the highest number of psychological problems also. So I don't think stigma is the answer. I think we have to, in some sense, we have to design the Indian way of dealing with mental health, not look at the Western way and sort of fall into the same trap.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's come back to Suvarna. You work in the employee benefits space, which means you see what companies offer and what employees actually value. Where is the biggest gap between employers think matters and what employees actually value?
Okay, there is a shift in this expectations on either parts, and it's evolving. First up, I am totally aligned to the comments that you mentioned on overall holistic wellness and how should one approach. I also believe that the best of apps and wellness initiatives cannot compensate for poor leadership, which remains the single biggest reason for reaching out to those wellness apps to begin with. So there comes the points that you were making, Mr. Hussain, where investments in leadership development and finding that mutual purpose between the organization uh, as well as the employee's own identified purpose can help a great deal uh, in ensuring that the employee remains engaged and adds on to the discretionary effort you mentioned earlier. Like I said, there has been a shift, and employers for that matter, have viewed the employment from a sheer lens of a compensation contract for a long part of the industrial revolution and the workforce trends that it was until 10 to 15 years back, until the coveted Gen Z arrived and we started understanding that we must change because this can't go on. The relationship aspect didn't exist earlier, which is what the employees of today expect from the employers. They don't want just an employment contract, the liability in terms of composition, etc. But they look at it as a relationship in which the values are aligned, in which they feel valued, in which they along with whatever is the basic fundamental expectation of employment, the pay and all the benefits. But else than that, their ask is these deeper things which we are toggling with, because with each workforce generation and the type of employees, the demographics, the expectation changes. So there comes the role of personalization. You can't have one. Uh, so in the study, it was also found that about 80% of all organizations that participated in the study, they invest in some sort of wellness initiative. However, what is the perceived benefit of it in the workforce? It is just 20%, because what may be wellness for me or important in terms of wellness aspect for me could be different from somebody else sitting next to me. So there is the role of personalization, that there is the role of the choice that employers have to enable, so that employees can choose what is that works for them, and it plugs the gap of expectations.
Sure. Thank you so much. Musrat, the next question is for you. With 30 plus years across manufacturing, financial services, and R&D, you have seen employer-employee relationship evolve across industries and decades. What does loyalty actually mean in 2026? And is it reasonable for employers to expect it?
Yeah, it's a very pertinent question. Loyalty, in long back was tenure. We used to have long service award, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, finally retirement. So that was called loyalty. Now, how much productivity is there, we don't know. But people were loyal. They were literally married to the organization. That was loyalty. In Japan, that is very much prevalent. Still, people are, tenured and they are married to the organization. They don't leave the organization. But today, if you ask, what is loyalty? So it's very contextual, very difficult to answer. But what, in my view, is that uh, I saw a big change. I saw a long service award given maybe around 10 years back uh, for somebody who has worked for 5 years. So I say it's a huge transition. 5 years, your loyalty is tested. Now that has come down to 2 to 3 years. So let me honestly tell you, if somebody comes to your organization, gives his or her dues in 2 to 3 years, they have done their job. No worries. Let us come out of that mindset that they are married to the organization. They have given their dues and let them move on. And that's how organizations have to be ready for tomorrow, because everything is changing very, very fast. And but The other side of the coin is we talk about loyalty and we expect employees to be loyal. But what about the managers? What about the leaders? How loyal they are to the organization or to their employees? That introspection is required. And that is where I was talking about create those kind of culture in the organization. So it's a two-way, it's a give and take. It's not one-sided. You can't throw money, paycheck, and expect loyalty. Sorry, gone are the days. If you really want a meaningful organization, it's a give and take. It is both ways, it's not one sided. And let us be clear, we look at tenure by how much contribution person has done rather than by the length of service. Let's have that paradigm shift in us, then it will be better for everyone going forward, because this is something which are all old theories actually, and we are evolving very, very fast. Loyalty is when your people are giving their best in an autonomous mode. You are nowhere. Everything is done on time, perfect to the requirement, your people are committed. That is loyalty. If you are still extracting, you have to struggle to get work out of your people. Sorry, that's not loyalty, that's give and take.
Yep.
So that's my take on
Sure.
that.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
I'm
much.
tempted to ask and add on this, and I don't want to be provocative, but with the recent news of AI and the related layoffs that are happening, is loyalty really appreciated or even needed by the organizations? Because they don't ask for it, they don't value it. Some of the organizations, the big ones, are moving on to a zero notice period practice. So they don't need notice because they have AI, and they don't give notice as well. They really don't care about the employees as much.
That's a phenomenon you are talking about AI. Tomorrow something else will be there. Let me tell you what I heard in some forum is that AI is not going to create all those challenges. People have to align to the AI. You have to make yourself AI ready. Otherwise, in some of the industries, not all the industries, by the way, are affected by AI. There's no doubt about it. But nevertheless, skilling, reskilling, building yourself, aligning to the AI need. Otherwise, it's going, we keep hearing, 10,000 people being laid off because AI has taken over. That's fine. But those are all phenomenon. That's not the end. Those are all transition which is happening. People perspective will always remain, let me tell you. Always remain. Few years back, 10, 15 years back, we were told that payroll is outsourced or some other activities outsourced. Then people would say even entire HR will be outsourced. You will be out of job. So those days we were scared, maybe we'll lose our job. There was no AI, but automation was happening. But what has happened? Actually, see, people perspective will, wherever there is a work, irrespective of any automation you bring in, we roll out a car in Maruti in every 12 seconds. So much of robotics and automation. But that has not reduced the number, that has created more jobs. So if AI is going to kill jobs, it is also going to create newer jobs. Let's be clear about that. Let's not worry about that. And loyalty is something which is, as I said, contextual, and it will remain. Not that AI is coming in, so loyalty will go. It's not. It is something which is one of the big character which I defined here. Loyalty means autonomous. So that is something which is required. Commitment.
Thank you for your take on that.
Thanks, Musrat. Ashwin, next question is for you. As a trained physician and a WEF Young Global Leader, you have seen mental health systems across contexts. What's one thing Indian employers could do tomorrow, no budget required, that would meaningfully improve employee well-being?
One thing they could do is stop asking this question, which is no investment, bring a change. There is a very famous song by Peter Tosh. It is called Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven, Nobody Wants to Die. Right? That's the situation we are. I don't think there is any quick fix for this. And I think organizations have to make the effort, and organizations are making those efforts. One of the challenges is this idea that you can do a quick fix for something like mental health or well-being of employees, I think is really unfortunate. And I know that many HR professionals with very good intention are contained by this notion. They don't get the budget approval, they don't get whatever, timelines that they need, etc. I think having said that, if they were to invest, let's say if an organization was to invest, and we have worked with over 100 companies across multiple geographies, the biggest benefit that we have seen is in creating peer supporters within the organization, trained peer supporters who can look out for each other, particularly in the Indian context, because in our culture, it's more likely that an employee or anybody is more likely to speak to somebody they know, somebody they trust, rather than pick up the phone and talk to a psychologist who's anonymous, I've never met. That's not going to happen. So if you can empower the person they have trust in with some basic things, not make them psychologists, but if you can empower them, I think that's one thing which could give a lot of dividends later.
Sure, thank you. So with this set of questions, we'll try to come to summarizing the entire panel discussion by saying that the employer-employee relationship is no longer transactional. It's more than that, and it has that emotional connect and a bond that an employer shares. It's all about the experience that the employee experiences when they are there in the organization through various practices, HR practices that we actually deliver to the employees. And like Musarrat said, it's about how to do it, and it's an art. Thank you so much, panelists, for today's discussion.
Thank you, everyone, for that fascinating conversation. And really, I think there's no easy answer to that question. What do employers and employees actually owe each other? But great to have the conversation started on this platform. Huge round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you.